Welcome to this video on how to calculate compensation matrices from single stain controls in OMIQ. For this example, I will use a dataset with 7 files. The first 6 are single stain controls for different colors in this experiment, and the last is an actual sample to analyze after correcting for compensation. To begin, create a new workflow. OMIQ will recognize the data, and if there is spillover present in the FCS file, it will automatically add a compensation task, followed by a scaling task. However, no compensation matrix has been calculated yet. Regardless, you can create your own new compensation from single stain controls. So go back to the workflow, start by clicking the Add Task arrow at the workflow root to create a new branch and choose a scaling task. If you need to set scaling, you can do that now. Otherwise, click the task arrow and select the Create Comp Matrix task. In the task interface, you'll see something similar to the gating interface. However, this interface features a wizard that guides you through creating a compensation matrix step by step. To get started, first decide which channels you need to select for compensation based on the ones for which you have single stain controls. In this case, that will be the 6 that I mentioned earlier. Click Submit and proceed to the next step, which is selecting the positive and negative control files. During this step, OMIQ examines the parameter names and file names for the controls and determines how they should align based on the naming conventions. This process won't always be perfect, so regardless of whether you see a green tick here or not, you should always double-check what happened automatically here. When you open this page, you'll see all the compensation channels in the first column. Then there are negative and positive file options to select. You can see here that OMIQ assigned all but one of these correctly. Pack Blue is unassigned in this case because the sample name is simply PB. You can select a sample from the drop-down in each column to update it. In some situations, you might have a common negative control, in which case there are options here to apply the values in a particular column to all of the other values present. Once you're happy with the settings, press Submit. The process for Step 3 involves generating the gates for the positive and negative controls and then setting their positions appropriately. However, before you do this, you may want to set some cleanup gates. To do this, select the parameters on which you wish to apply the cleanup and draw up a simple gate, turning on per file position mode as needed. Then activate the gate by double-clicking it or right-clicking and selecting Activate. Now you can generate the gates. On the left, you can see a list of the positive and negative gates for each parameter. To set the gates appropriately, click on each gate pair from top to bottom and move them into position based on what you think they need to be. You can click on either gate from that pair, and OMIQ will automatically select the associated control file. If it helps, you can also choose a different plot type. However, this selection will be temporary. It will return to a histogram the moment you click a new gate. In some circumstances, you may need to apply a cleanup gate to different parameters depending on the file of interest. To do this, begin by selecting the file of interest. Draw the cleanup gate and then cut and paste the relevant gates across. Once you've set all your gates, you can proceed to the final step, which is to calculate the compensation matrix by clicking the Generate Comp Matrix button. OMIQ will produce a compensation matrix for you. You can repeat this as many times as needed. For example, if you decide to tweak one of the gate positions and then regenerate it, you'll see the change reflected here. Remember that this compensation matrix is not permanent. If you exit this task and return, OMIQ will not save the matrix. However, it will preserve all other settings, allowing you to easily regenerate it by clicking Generate Comp Matrix. Now, to apply this matrix, click the Copy Matrix button, click Save, and then return to the workflow screen and open the compensation task on the previous workflow branch. Here, you can click the Actions button and select Paste Matrix to paste your matrix. Then, save to apply it to the rest of the workflow. If the compensation matrix you start with is not blank, you can still overwrite it in the same way. And that is how to create a compensation matrix from single stain controls in OMIQ. To learn more, visit omiq.ai.